Hi, my dear Astro family. So today we are going to be looking at the upcoming North Node and Neptune conjunction. But I also will be mixing Venus into the picture because on the 1st of February, Venus made a conjunction to both Neptune and North Node as well. So basically, we had a new cycle starting, and therefore she is playing quite a significant role in this conjunction. But before we dive into this, I would like to announce two things for you. One of them is that it's my birthday week. And historically, I have always made massive reductions on my prices of my courses, webinars, as well as readings. So this year is no exception. My readings are 40% discounted, courses are 30, and webinars are 50%. So if you would like to meet me during one of my courses or webinars, or you would like to have personal guidance, then this is the time to actually go ahead on my website, AstroViktor.com, and book one appointment. And also, I'm extremely excited because my third book is ready. Now, this is a digital version, and I would like to show you a couple of things about it. So, this is going to be how it looks like. The title is Signs of Prosperity Unlocking Financial Wisdom Through Astrology. And this book is going to be pretty much about how to make money. So I have collected a lot of techniques. I'm describing you in detail. It's a good 220 pages, I believe, all about your personal charts. It's kind of like a step-by-step guide. So I highly recommend grabbing it because you might not even need financial readings anymore. Now, I want to show you what it contains actually. So I'm talking to you about the money houses in detail. I talk about the signs on the second house cusp in the second paragraph. I also describe the ruler of the second house in particular positions. And what I do is it's really practical. And I'm telling you, if the second house ruler is in the sixth, then you can make money, for example, out of service industries and so forth. So not too much BSing around. What happens if you've got planets in or in an aspect to the second house or second house ruler? And I also look at the lunar influences on finances because moon plays quite a significant a topic when it comes to your spending habits. So I describe that too. I look at Mercury and how it influences our finances, Venus as a money indicator. So I go through briefly the Venus signs as well. We look at Mars and your finances. We look at the Jupiter and Saturn cycle, which is your career and financial attitudes. And I also look at in detail the identification of your money blockages. Even we look at indications of talent and earning potentials for instance, artists or stuff like that. So sporting talent and so on. Also, we look at some financial asteroids. We look at your ideal work environment, where you should be working, basically. We look at the Pluto Jupiter midpoint, self employment indicators, business ownership charts. So, a lot is included in this chart. Even I mentioned some, so that I talk about investment sectors as well. We look at part of fortune, as you can see. So here you go. If you are interested in this book, I recommend it. This is discounted until the 10th of February. And the special gift I'm giving you is that you will also get a webinar. I will be doing that live on at the end of February. I will be confirming the dates in the upcoming week. You can attend free of charge if you buy the book until the 10th of February. And basically what will happen is that I will show you how to use this book properly. We're going to go through an example. And basically it's a Q&A session. So if you would like to have some questions, then you can do that. But let's get started with this Neptune and North Node conjunction. First of all, the very last time we had a North Node and Neptune conjunction in the sign of Pisces was in 1858, January 2nd. So it doesn't happen that often. Of course, Neptune and the North Node are going to be meeting more often than that, but in different signs. Now, this is going to be taking place on 28 degree of Pisces, almost on 29. So if you have got any planet between 27 to 29 degree of Pisces, Sagittarius, Gemini, or Virgo, then this is actually a highly important period for you. You can even look at your progressed or solar arc planets as well if you are into timing techniques, not necessarily just the natal ones. And on one hand, this combination would talk to you about a spiritual awakening. Now, this is kind of like a little bit of a an interesting word, that spiritual awakening and so forth. But I think maybe this is on a more realistic level. It would talk to you about kind of like the love of psychology, the love of spirituality, kind of like understanding that people have got karmic burdens that we have to be able to put down. And also, it could indicate that you are going to be more aware of things that are not visible. So knowing that the mind is, for example, a powerful tool, obviously you cannot see your mind, you don't know what is at the depth of your mind, but it's time to realize that it influences our life quite significantly. Yes, maybe a lot of us will be praying a lot more. We are going to be connected to spirituality. Maybe we are going to be doing certain type of different healing methods as well, or we want to be reconnecting somehow with the gods. So this could be the rise of religions also. But remember, Neptune is highly sensitive. So it's very possible that the fact that you are just kind of like being in the bathroom, singing a song, for example, or just walking on the streets and then kind of like seeing the same numbers all over again. So there is this synchronicity going on with this type of energy as well. But because we've got North Node in the picture, remember what North Node represents. It is the path that we need to be on. So this is a representation that we need to be in the path of understanding the mind, understanding people, being able to place ourselves in different shoes of others as well. It's somehow talking to us about having not to judge others for their own choices. Pisces is the sign of compassionate love and also the understanding the motives behind people. And it's not just about, the spirituality and all those type of things that we tend to say. On a psychological level, this would talk to us about the need to heal the soul within us. Now, some say that North Node is something that will always amplify or magnify something. And that is okay, I think it's a good testimony. Some people will call North Node as a karmic influencer. And often, because the North Node and the South Node come in pairs, often this is going to talk to you about repeating the same patterns all over again and having to be able to kind of walk away from it. So when you look at that, the South Node is in the sign of Virgo, which is actually a habitual sign. We tend to be doing, like the same things all over again, being the slave to our work, for example, or having to do domestic chores at home and so forth. So this Neptune and North Node could actually talk to you about that there are a lot more important things out there that we can actually do. So the nodes are always giving us an opportunity to release certain type of karmic patterns in our life, and in a way to create new ones instead that it's kind of like upgraded or updated, or we are more aligned with. Remember that we also have got Saturn, though, in the sign of Pisces. So there is definitely, I think, a blessing in disguise right now, because it is trying to tell us not to dream too big. It is telling us to be kind of like having a step-by-step guide, being more on the tangible side. With Neptune, our imagination is quite heightened. We are overly sensitive. And Saturn comes into the picture, which is on 16 degree, though, that we need to stay real. So, Neptune, I tend to call it as the planet of kind of like magnetism. I know magnetism is a very Plutonian word. Maybe I didn't use the right word, but Neptune is kind of like the law of attraction planet. So we need to be able to imagine something in order for us to kind of make it happen. And making it happen, that's the Saturnian part in the sign of Pisces. It's kind of like inviting certain type of magic into your life, but knowing that magic only works to a certain extent. We also need to roll up the sleeves and be, working hard basically, so that it doesn't necessarily lead to certain type of disappointment. I think Saturn wants us to see things clearly. I think it's about consciousness as well, or it is telling us that we need to have a kind of like a realistic perception. In this world, we need to be able to keep the boundaries because Neptune often kind of blurring those boundaries. So it's kind of like trying to bring the tangible and the intangible together. But yes, going back to this Neptune and North Node conjunction, I think it's also talking to you about having to have faith in the path that you are about to be taking. Or at least it's telling you that it's time to believe in something. You need to be practicing somehow a bit more self-care, surely, because we have got Venus there as well. And Venus is the planet of loving. So you need to be able to love yourself. You need to be able to kind of forgive others. You need to be able to walk away from the past. Of course, we've got such a strong Piscean energy going on, and Pisces is the compassionate love, but also it shows certain type of humanitarian efforts as well. I mean, Pisces in traditional astrology is ruled by Jupiter, which is actually in the sign of Gemini, that could represent neighborhood countries. So this could talk to us about, for example, on one hand, unfortunately, that certain neighborhood countries and their alliances are going to be a little bit, problematic. Even though with Neptune, which is the planet of notification, and with North Node, we have got this desire to unify, but I feel like with the ongoing Jupiter and Saturn square, which is very much about a economical decision, and on top of that, Neptune and Jupiter will be making a square later on this year. It does tell me that certain kind of countries are going to be kind of like departing from each other. But it doesn't mean, though, that we are not going to be having this, for example, international aid somehow. So, for example, certain type of natural disasters, and then we are coming to rescue that country, or organizing some charitable events, or trying to help the homeless, thinking about the people in need. Also, big topic could become the addiction problems. Of course, with Neptune and North Node in the sign of Pisces, to get addicted to something is a very high chance. Whether this addiction is about to get addicted to being loved or to take care of yourself, it depends on the house position of your own chart. But of course, with the addiction problems, the drug abuse, the alcohol abuse, and all those type of topics could be actually very prominent. Of course, because again, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, so the legislations around drug use and, even with Jupiter in Gemini, kind of like uh, drug smuggling could actually become quite a big topic. Also, I'm wondering once Jupiter moves into the sign of Cancer, that there is going to be some initiations around helping people with no homes. So I can imagine certain type of shelters being built and so forth. And of course, Neptune and Pisces are the representation of the ocean as well. So cleaning up the ocean and protecting the sea life could become quite a big topic. Because Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, often Saturn represents lack of something. So the lack of fishes, the lack of water, and this is the reason why we have got all these, kind of like charity events scheduled and so forth, or at least initiations. But I would like to mention, though, that be extremely careful because Neptune is also the planet of scams and deception and lies. So it's very possible to get kind of sucked into a situation where you donate money to someone and then it turns out that this was the biggest scam of the year. So just be mindful about that. Also, with Jupiter in Gemini and even Pisces, these two signs are migrating signs. So I'm just wondering if we are going to see like a big, massive migration going on or legislation around migration as well. Now, some of the negative meanings of this combination is paranoia, being confused about the path that you are on, or kind of like you've got this veil, when you get married, and then you've got this veil right on your face, and then you're walking down on the aisle, and the danger is that you can't see properly, so you're gonna trip over. So just make sure that that veil is not that, kind of dark. It must be see-through in a way so that you can actually see things clearly. And often because we've had this Neptune and Venus conjunction as well, which is about the idealistic love, the kind of like the perfect lover archetype. And then at one point, there could be this awakening that this person is not perfect. And then I can feel betrayed. So watch out for such things as well, like binging eating. Now, it's interesting because more and more on my Facebook channel and so forth, these hypnotherapy type of things are popping up, like, or lose, I don't know, 45 pounds within a month with hypnotherapy, and you can eat as much as you want. So unfortunately, there could be a lot of a myth that is also coming up. And, it could be misleading because, yes, certainly hypnotherapy can help you lose weight. So for sure. But I'm more of a realistic person. If you eat a tons of chicken and bread and cake every day, no matter how much hypnotherapy you do, you are still going to put on weight. Okay. So this is where Jupiter in Gemini comes into the picture, which tells you to do a research, ask a lot of questions before you get into any of these topics. Also, it could be a question whether you have got a tendency to lie to yourself or you are trying to run away from something because Saturn is there and Saturn moves faster. You know what it means? Saturn will catch you. It means that you cannot escape karma with Saturn and Neptune. You cannot escape your responsibilities. Eventually, something will catch up to you. So it's better to kind of stay there and then trying to find the right path, the solution with that. And this is where the South Node in the sign of Virgo actually gets switched on, which is the sign of solutions, problem fixing. Remember my idea about the nodes, especially the South Node, that we don't have to be walking away from it. We just don't have to overdo it. So being disconnected from reality is a huge danger. And at one point, sobering up with Saturn will be highly important. Yes, I mean, I spoke about how intuitive this position is, and definitely a case, but often actually it's kind of like an emotional overload as well. So, for example, for the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, all these emotional influences could actually lead to wanting to run away and escape from things. So, but what also you can do with this, because, yeah, of course, as I said, you can be singing a song in the bathroom and so forth. It is definitely also telling you, especially to those fixed signs, that sometimes you're going to have to recharge the batteries. You're going to have to switch off the brain and you're going to have to practice the escapism. Now, North Node, Neptune, Saturn, it also kind of feels like being a monk or being in solitude. So we might see that a lot of people decide that, I don't know, I want to live on a remote island, or I want to kind of escape, the busy city centers and so on. And I want to be living in the countryside where there is more nature, fresh air, better food, and all those type of stuff. And I think it's actually quite a nice idea, or it could be really helpful for many people to kind of feel in peace. Talking about actually peace, another very interesting thing to mention, because Neptune and Venus, obviously, those are the planet of, especially Venus, the planet of peace. And also, don't forget that Pisces North Node has been going on since what, January 11th. So these two have been in a tight conjunction for the last 1 month, pretty much. And the last 1 month, if I'm not mistaken, we did have peace made, right, in the Middle East and so forth. And we might start seeing these type of things, that there is a lot more peace on the way. However, because Venus is going to be retrograde in the sign of Aries, and then it's going to go back into the sign of Pisces later on. So Venus goes retrograde on the 1st or the 2nd of March, depending on where you are. I don't think these peace last forever, though. Because especially Venus in the sign of Aries, there's a conflict of interest there. But let's be hopeful and let's hope that basically I'm wrong. So modern astrology believes that Neptune is the dispositor of the North Node, because it would be the ruler of Pisces. So on that note, what I would like to mention is that there is definitely the themes of spirituality that is popping up here quite significantly. And also, I would say that maybe with that North Node, it's kind of like a calling. You are very drawn towards something. You might become actually very optimistic to take that road, to be on the way to go somewhere, basically. It could also talk to you about, I mean, firstly, look at whether you use the Neptunian energies in your life pretty much or not, because Neptune represents like music industry, for example, or dancing as well, or any type of art, really. So this could actually talk to you about that you are kind of like changing your artsy ness. So you are going to be kind of doing different art, or you are going to be writing different songs, for example. Or Neptune actually represents the filmmakers as well, or the charity workers, or people even working in pharmaceutical companies, or people who do voluntary work. So maybe this is just kind of like even taking you further, or if you have not been doing that, you might become like one of those as well. Or it could be, unfortunately, the negative side of as well, that a lot of people might be losing their homes, becoming homeless, living on the street. Neptune is also very much connected to prostitution alongside with the Virgo quality. So we might see that prostitution is going to be blooming, wanting to have more money. And of course, the money would be coming from the Neptune Venus conjunction as well. And I even like to mention that Neptune is the planet of modern slavery. What do I mean by modern slavery? Basically, what I mean is that, I checked on Google and still about 50 million people are forced to get married. But modern slavery is also working for a really tiny amount of money for a company, basically without any type of benefits. Maybe it doesn't even cover your bills and so on. So we might see some initiations around equality topics as well, because Venus is the planet of equality. And of course, Venus was exalted in the sign of Pisces. So this could be really positive manifestation of this, of course. And also, I would say with Neptune and um, North Node that maybe the social media channels will be blooming. Why? Because Neptune is about videos and photographs, but also it represents pornography as well, though. So there's the negative side of it, or kind of like the video making, or you might end up just watching Netflix. Maybe Netflix is going to take a different route, and that's a possibility with this configuration also. Surely Neptune and Pisces are a reminder that we are all connected. We are all the same flesh and blood. You know, another thing that I would like to mention as a negative is that with North Node and Pisces conjunction, having kind of like a malefic planet on the side of it can bring up any like a new pandemic as well. So I think I'm not the only one who mentioned that so far. And I don't want to be kind of scaring people about pandemics, but I'm just kind of like outlining to you that this is also a possibility with that. Now, definitely the fact that the traditional ruler of Pisces is Jupiter, and it has just recently stationed direct on the 4th of February. So that's also really important here because it means that we are having a dream, we are ready to ask questions, and maybe we are ready to move on with it. So remember that Jupiter, who is stationing direct, that is about growth. So we want to grow. We want to understand our spiritual path, but also it represents an inner growth as well, because Pisces is usually growing within, while Jupiter is more like the opportunities ahead of us. So this is a reminder that inner development as well as the opportunities outside somehow needs to be merged. Also, maybe this is telling us that it's time to kind of, because Jupiter has been retrograde, meaning that it has gone in different directions than it should have. So maybe we slowed down when it came to our belief system, certain type of like plans and learning and so forth. So let's say that you slow down with your studies, for example, then it's time to catch up because Jupiter is going to start picking up the speed. And also, this is telling you that if you want to get lucky, then actually luck depends on you. So you can make your own luck. You need to make opportunities. You need to be brave. You need to be taking chances in life. Jupiter is the planet of confidence, but also it definitely encourages you to go towards something. And because Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, I think it is talking to us about looking at our approach to our faith and our belief system and being able to share something, being able to communicate about all these desires that you've got. As mentioned before as well, Venus has started a new cycle with Neptune and North Node as well. So that's actually very important. Basically, we had a triple conjunction happening on the 1st of February. And it might be somehow just peaking on the 7th when Neptune and North Node is making that exact conjunction as well. But whatever is happening, that Venus and Neptune conjunction is kind of like together is the representation of the path that we need to be on. And Northern often represents the hunger. So what does it mean? We are hungry to be fed. We are hungry to be loved. We are hungry to be forgiven. We are hungry to be saved as well. With Pisces, that's the savior archetype. We want someone in the world to kind of come and rescue us in a way, to put things in, place. Basically, it could indicate that you put your faith into, let's say, a politician with that Saturn or stuff like that, that this is going to be a better world. And then often we just open up our own hearts, inviting that type of person in and then basically putting your life into their own hands. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with it because I think one of the key success factors with this combination is that we need to be able to have belief in something. We need to be able to trust. We need to be able to trust the universe that we are on the right path. And by the way, that's also very interesting that on the day of the Venus-Neptune North Node conjunction, the moon was also there as well. So basically, it happened a little bit later, but we had this huge conjunction going on there. And the moon is about nurturing, being kind, being loving, and caring, but also that represents our automatic responses to danger as well. So, like when I experience certain type of danger, then Moon is the planet of reaction. And maybe one of the ways how I would react with Moon in Pisces is that I would start crying, for example. Sometimes what's really hard with the strong Piscean energy that we cannot say no to things because we are all this, empathy and sympathy for one person. We want to come and then rescue them. We want to come and then heal them. And this is where also Saturn comes into the picture that sometimes you're going to have to be able to say no. You don't have to surrender. You don't have to sacrifice everything in your life. Sometimes all we can do is just, say a prayer, for example, for someone that God will be, saving their soul and so forth. Obviously, it doesn't mean that, whatever you kind of your belief system is, I'm not necessarily personally a prayer type of person, but if someone is in trouble, I know inside it really so I'm gonna give you an example. Um a few weeks ago I met a homeless person in the park when I went with my dogs. And it you could just see that this person was recently someone who recently became homeless and so on. So I went to the shop and then I bought them food and orange juice and water and so forth because I'm not a person who likes giving money just because they might not be spending it in the right way. And the guy started crying, like, oh, Jesus, I could not stop thinking about that person for at least 3, 4 days. And that's the Piscean energy, actually. Okay. So, but can we do that every single day? No. And that is what Saturn says to you in the sign of Pisces, because then you're going to run into debts. And basically, it's not your karma in a way, often Saturn says that we all choose the path that we want to be on. And some of these people might choose the path. So watch out for this GoFundMe type of, charitable causes and so on. That's what I'm trying to say with this, because some of those could be just a illusion created to you, trying to pull your heartstrings. But definitely, if you are less on the charitable side, Venus and Neptune is telling you that it's time to kind of do so. It is definitely about spiritual work. You can be doing dream work. You can do meditation, uh, uh, guided visualization techniques. You can do a vision board with this. You can do artistic type of things, take photos, draw, paint a picture, because it's all about expressing your desires through something beautiful. And that is the whole idea about this planetary energy. Now, really, I was not thinking to make a 12 sign predictions for this one, and still not my intention actually, but I'm going to be giving just one sentence to each of the signs that you can potentially take away for you. So Aries rising sign, it is happening in your 12th house. And this is telling you that because this is kind of a hidden sector of your chart, that it's time to go through a spiritual awakening. It's time to practice a little bit more spirituality. But also, often this is a representation of loss and having to say goodbye to something. Depending on, of course, where Neptune and North Node is natally in your chart, but also remember that this is opening the door for you for a new opportunity. Taurus rising sign. So this is going to be happening in your 11th house, which is very much of a social house. So this could represent, for example, that your goal is going to be changing quite significantly. You are going to be going towards a goal that you have been drawn to for a very long time. And also, this is telling you to be compassionate towards others, try to place yourself in other people's shoes as well. And also, maybe this is talking to you about meeting benefactors in your life. Gemini rising sign, so this is going to be taking place in the career sector of your chart, which is the 10th house. And maybe you have been a little bit more on the resistant side to go towards a new profession. And there is this awakening here that, you know what, I would like to do something new with my life. Maybe it requires certain type of studies. Remember, Jupiter is also in your first house as well. So there is definitely this personal growth through career opportunities. Often you have to be able to let go of something, and maybe this is the uncomfortability, the discomfort of working from home, and so on. Cancer rising sign. So this is going to be happening in your ninth house, which is the house of opportunities. So this is giving you an opportunity to relocate, to study something, even to travel, or you might be considering to publish your book, for example. But surely this could represent spiritual studies as well. It's kind of like it looks like that spirituality somehow becomes your um, kind of like everyday norm. Leo rising sign. So this is going to be happening in your eighth house, which is the house of shared resources, but also it represents death and rebirth. So it looks like that the path, excuse me, that the path you have been on might not have been suitable for you. And therefore, sometimes life has to take something away from us. So this could represent certain type of losses or a sacrifice that we have to be making. But surely this is about your psychological well-being as well. So how to get better mentally and physically and even emotionally as well. This is also about the creation of a better intimate department with others. So am I able to trust people or am I afraid of them? It really looks like that maybe you have to be letting go of some of your financial doubts as well, or the idea that you are not talented. Virgo rising sign. So we've got this conjunction happening in your seventh house. Well, maybe this is a completely new chapter in your life. Maybe you are ready to forgive a partner of yours. Maybe you are actually ready to meet someone. And also, maybe you are ready to let go of a person that you have been together for a while. And it would be kind of like a peaceful departure because it's the realization that, you know what, I need to grow on a personal level. And maybe it's just knowing that I'm not ready for it. Maybe it's just about releasing some of your old fears and so forth around relationship issues. So you want to go through a healing so that you can be ready to connect someone and merge with someone on a kind of like deeper level. And even it could talk to you about increasing your spiritual clients. Libra rising sign, so the North Node and Neptune conjunction is happening in your sixth house, which is the house of routine and service industry. So it looks like that you can be actually really helpful towards others. Maybe you want to be actually doing anything charitable. Potentially, maybe you want to be kind of like in a sector which allows you to help people, to work together with people. So this is healthcare, for example. Maybe this is also about you wanting to start a complete new routine. And with that Neptune, you realize that it's time to let go of something. Scorpio rising sign. So this is going to be happening in your fifth house, which is the house of creativity. So it's time to write those songs. It's right time to write a book. It is actually time for you to somehow reconnect with that childlike artistic version of yourself, because also this is about confidence as well. So you have to be able to have confidence in yourself. And just think about a child like energy. You know, a child is brave. A child is not afraid of anything. Are you? Because this might be a reminder that you're going to have to heal that part of you. Sagittarius rising sign. So this is going to be happening in your fourth house, which could actually represent that it's time to forgive your family ancestry line. Maybe it's time to let them go. Maybe it's actually having more of a peaceful connection with your family, forgiving them, and so forth. But maybe this is a relocation topic for you, moving to a dream location of yours. Capricorn rising sign. So this is taking place in your third house, which is the house of communication. So maybe actually you are ready to launch a spiritual channel, for example. Maybe you are having these compassionate conversations with others, potentially about the future with your friends or relatives and so forth. But definitely, this is also telling you that you still need to be able to be realistic about it, because it's a Gemini related house type, right? So you're gonna have to kind of consider things. You're gonna have to collect the right information, for example. And also, it could be making you a little bit like difficult to communicate your feelings, difficult to put things into words, but clarity is going to come once Saturn is a little bit closer to this 28-degree. Aquarius rising sign. So we've got the North Node Neptune conjunction happening in your second house. So that would be talking to you about making money out of spiritual fields, pharmaceutical fields, and so forth. So whatever I've described at the beginning of the video, of course. But also, do I feel good in my own skin? Do I feel secure about who I am? Do I feel secure about the path that I am on? And also, maybe it's the realization that money has kind of like defined my life. And maybe I somehow need to kind of grow as a spiritual entity as well. And last but not least, Pisces rising sign. So we've got Neptune North Node conjunction happening in your first house. So this is taking your spiritual essence the next level. This is telling you that you're going to have to be able to potentially let go of a relationship, or let go of these perfectionism type of ideas about how I should look like, the people pleasing side, or how my partner should look like, and all those type of things. Yes, this could be talking to you about creation of your perfect body, but also it could represent that you kind of feel a little bit let down, or you feel even a little bit exhausted, or you keep comparing yourself with others and then you feel less than others. But definitely it's a spiritual calling, and it's definitely making you quite creative as well. And it looks like that you become one with the path that you want to be on. So, guys, this would be a very, very brief description of excuse me, North Node and Neptune conjunction for the 12 signs. Thank you for being here and see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.